Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. Today we're checking out a brand new case from Streacom. Well, really it's not a brand new case, it's a revised version of the DA2 called the DA2 V2. It's got a few more additions that were basically recommendations from the community, and now they actually executed. This basically to me looks like what an ITX case from Apple would look like. So without further ado, let's take a bit of a closer look and do a build. You guys ready? I sure as heck am. Let's do it. As usual with the builds on the channel, we use hardware that we've got on hand. We don't go out and buy parts for these videos. But that aside, let's pull this thing apart, take a bit of a closer look, do a build, do the thermal testing, we'll do all that stuff. But first we need to pull it apart and see what fits, because to be honest, I haven't really looked at what we're gonna make fit in here yet. So we best, take a bit of a closer look, right? Alrighty, with the DA2, you get a bag full of all the accessories and all the screws and everything you're going to need to mount everything. Pretty standard stuff. Everything is on the outside of the case. You'll need an Allen key. It does include one, but I would recommend actually getting a screwdriver. It'll just save yourself so much time if you've got an Allen bit for it. So yeah, I would recommend that. That is the best way to go about it. But yeah, like I mentioned, it's just all the standard mounting gear that you'll find with most cases. It's got these pass-through rubber grommets that hold fans in. Very Noctua-ish in design. Have seen this a lot over the years, but yeah, pretty standard stuff. So I don't really want to talk about screws because they're not really that interesting. So let's start pulling it all apart so we can take a bit of a deeper dive. Alrighty, let's remove those side panels first. Just gotta apply some pressure to the top, pull from the bottom, and they should pop out nice and easily. There's already a few differences in this case. You might have spotted them already, but we're gonna go through all of them. So yeah, if we had an original V1, I would definitely do a side by side, but unfortunately we don't, and these cases are very, very expensive, so yeah. Now the first thing that you'll notice when we pull the side panels off is the pattern for the holes is different to the V1, allowing better airflow than the V1. So they have actually revised this. They've also revised the pattern on the back side of the case as well. So for the 92mm fan mount that we'll come back to in a bit, they have actually changed that as well. There's also a dust filter. It's a magnetic dust filter on the back side of the case that can be quite easily removed. It's got magnets on each corner that hold it into place. The first thing you'll notice with these cases is everything's completely modular and it's mounted on a rail system. So you can move things basically to any position you want. And yeah, basically it's just a frame to build whatever you like. Now there are a few other changes as well. The bottom acrylic fan filters, which are down here, have been changed. The design's changed, so they're a lot more open now. Okay, so as far as fan mounting options, you can do a 92mm along the back of the case if you use this orientation. We'll show you some other accessories that we've got with the case as well, so you can do vertical GPU mounting. You've got these new acrylic panels on the top and the bottom that allow mounting for the fans on the top and the bottom, which you could do before, but this is a lot more elegant. As you can tell, they've opened these up now, because before they had these like long slats that would impede airflow, but these are completely open now, and there's also filters attached to them too. So it is quite an elegant little upgrade, and it does make for more versatile mounting options. The maximum air cooler height is 145mm if you were to be using an air cooler with a build like this. On these floating rails, there are standoffs for motherboards already installed. So if you're going to install an ITX board, you can go ahead and do that, no problem. You can do mini DTX as well. You can't do mini DTX if you're going vertical mounting, which we're gonna cover in, maybe we'll cover it in this video, not sure, but we have like quite a few videos with this plan because it is quite interesting. It's like a modder's dream, basically. You can do anything you want within reason with this case. It is quite an interesting little case. As far as power supply support. You can do all types of power supplies in here, just depending on how long your GPU is. So if you're looking at doing something like, let's say, SFX power supply, you're not going to have any problems mounting a GPU up to, I think it's 330 millimeters or maybe 335 from memory. But if you're going ATX, you're actually going to be sacrificing quite a bit of that space, and you're looking at about 220 mils for maximum GPU length if you were to put in ATX power supply. One of the things you'll probably notice if you've used or seen the V1 is this, the actual power connector on the back of the case for the extension cable. Now, it used to come straight out and it would impede installing a few things on your motherboard and would generally just get in the way. They've actually made this a complete right angle connector. It is located in the exact same place as before, but again, they've made a new connector that rotates the orientation. So yeah, it makes it quite a bit easier to cable manage, and it doesn't get in the way as much now. It is a nice little change from the original. Because of the highly modular nature of this case, you have limitations and things you can change. So in this normal orientation for the GPU, you can only do horizontally mounted GPUs with 2 slots. However, if you were to want to change to a 3-slot card, let's say a 3090 Founders, which is a true 3-slot card, you actually need to change this. Streacom actually sent across every accessory for this case, so we'll take a look at all the options you do have if you are wanting to build in something like this. This is the front I/O module. Basically, this allows you to change from the standard USB Type-C option to USB Type-A with a 3.0 header for your motherboard. This is actually quite a nice addition because some people don't use front panel USB Type-C. However, if you wanted to change the actual header for USB Type-C for the included Type-C port, there is another accessory, which is this. So this can also be purchased separately. This is a USB Type-C to C cable. So basically a USB Type-C header on one end and a Type-C port on the other end for the front panel of the case. As mentioned a little bit earlier in the video as well, there is a vertical GPU mounting kit that can be purchased as well. This will allow you to install GPUs up to a 3-slot in a vertical orientation. So for things like the 3090 Founders Edition, if you could make that fit, which I'm pretty sure we could make that fit. Maybe we'll do that in another video. I don't think we're gonna do vertical mounting in this video, to be honest. Because yeah, I don't want this video to go for too long, to be honest. And yeah, so vertical GPU kit, which is actually quite a nice addition. Very easy to swap out, 4 screws to pull the panel off and 2 screws to swap out the power connector, and that's basically it. And the last optional accessory you can purchase is the TG side panel kit. This kit actually comes with 2 TG side panels, so it's got a regular side panel and a completely blacked out side panel. They attach via magnets. They're very easy to attach. You don't need to do anything special. You literally line them up and they snap into place with some magnets, and they shouldn't fall off. However, if you're transporting the case, I would possibly say take the side panel off because the magnets are strong, but probably not strong enough to stay on in transit. All right, let's pull this case apart so we get down to the frame so we can take an even closer look at how this is all put together. The beauty with a design like this is it allows you to attack the build from every angle and you're not restricted with access to anything. As I mentioned before, all of these cross braces and bars, the case can be completely torn down into any orientation you like if you can make it work. Yeah, it's actually quite nice how they've done this. The major difference with this case between the V1 and the V2 is actually the way that the filters work and these acrylic panels. You have to be super careful with these panels. The way I recommend doing it is just pulling each corner out and then the center, and then it should just pop out quite easily. And then there's the filter behind it, which is, again, pops out really easily. And then to do it, the bottom, it's the same thing again. Just be very careful not to crack the panels. And yeah, there you go. There's your fan mounting options with this new type of sandwich plate filter design. This will allow you to mount any fan quite easily using the rubber grommet setup or fan screws. So it is quite modular in its design. The last thing I wanted to do was show you how this modular rail system works with these cross braces that allow you basically to move these anywhere you like in the case, depending on what you're doing, because you can do custom loops and all that kind of stuff. There's lots of different orientations for this case. We'll be focusing on a single orientation in this video. However, we'll probably address some other orientations in a later video, maybe, just depending on what you guys want to see basically. But yeah, basically the way this system works is you loosen the brackets like this, and they've got little square nuts on the inside, and they basically allow you to slide them and pull them out like this, or alternatively you can literally slide these anywhere you like along the whole edge of the case, provided you feed in the screws in these little cutouts on the top and the bottom. But it is actually quite a nice, elegant case. These cases are not cheap. The original case in Australia is about 400 Australian dollars, which is very expensive. But with this kind of bespoke modularity, it actually makes it quite good for someone who wants to build something very individual. So I think the reason why the price is so high on these cases is mainly because Streacom is a very small bespoke outfit. And with these small form factor cases, it seems to be the trend. Well, that's the gist of the differences between the V1 and V2, but you know what time it is now? It's time to do a build. So let's do that. All right, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the build in the brand new Streacom DA2 V2. It is a very interesting case to build in. It requires a heck of a lot of patience. It is one of the most fiddly ITX or small form factor cases that I've ever built in. It is actually pretty cool, like you can do quite a lot, but be prepared to get frustrated. But that's the thing with small form factor builds. They're never easy and they're most of the time pretty frustrating. But if you're considering building in something like this, make sure that you research really what you want to do and make sure everything goes in once so you never have to do anything again, because like I mentioned, it is a little bit frustrating to build in. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the thermals. You're seeing those on screen right now. The thermals are actually pretty good for a case like this. In fact, I was actually quite surprised that the thermals with a 240mm AIO were as good as they were. We actually did flip the fans around for intake and exhaust, and the differences were completely negligible. So we didn't see anything outside of a margin of error. But yeah, overall pretty impressed with the thermals on this case. And to be honest, it shouldn't really surprise you considering with this new mesh design, it is basically just completely open, and I can get behind that kind of airflow. Okay, let's quickly chat about the parts. The CPU is the AMD Ryzen 7 3700X. I chose it because it gets relatively warm, and that's what I like to do with these builds. The GPU is the AMD Radeon 7. I actually had planned to do the MSI RTX 3080 Gaming X Trio. I'm going to show you a clip what happened when we tried to install this GPU, because I did actually disassemble half of the case to see if I could make it fit, because I wanted this build to be as cool as possible, but the reality is it is too wide for this case and it just won't go in. But that's what happens with these builds. Sometimes stuff just doesn't fit. Some of the other parts we use are the brand new Thermaltake Tough RAM Z1. I'll drop a link to in the description to that RAM. It's actually pretty cool. We haven't used it before, but it looks really slick and it's a lot smaller than like normal RGB RAM, which I actually quite like. And what I mean is in physical size. To cool the 3700X, we'll use the new Cooler Master ML240L V2 cooler. Instead of using the stock fans, I used some of the new Thermaltake Tough fans, the non-RGB ones, and the reason why I wanted to use them is because there's no RGB and this build really doesn't need RGB. The power supply is a 650 watt SFX Silverstone power supply. And all the parts I'm talking about and anything I didn't talk about will be in the PC part picker list down below in the description, so you can peruse that and see what everything is in this build. There's a few things to note when building in this case. Now, not everything is going to fit, mainly the top fan. So there are some standoffs that are included with the case to drop the power supply down slightly so you can do another slim fan above the power supply for exhaust. And we didn't go that path basically because of time, and this frustrated me to no end. Like, don't get me wrong, the case is cool, it looks nice, the airflow is pretty good for a small form factor case, but it is beyond frustrating to build in. I really shouldn't complain about it, because when you're doing small form factor builds, that's what you're signing up for. Anyway, so above the motherboard, I put a 120mm slim fan. I use a scythe fan. Here's what happened when we tried to put two slim Noctua fans underneath the GPU, because I know people are going to ask about this, like, oh, can you fit them or whatnot? Look, you're seeing what happens right now. It doesn't actually fit underneath a 2-slot GPU. Now, this isn't a thick GPU at all by any stretch of any type of GPU. This is one of the more slim GPUs that you will find. So even underneath that, no dice. It just does not fit. The beauty of this case as well is the fact that it's completely closed up and you can't see inside it, so the cable management doesn't really matter too much, but the cable management's decent. The rails can be added and moved away, so you can actually add a rail in for extra tie-down points for cable management, which is actually a nice little touch as well. We do have other orientations we're going to try out and we're going to do videos with as well, but I wanted to do it in the most standard orientation most people are going to actually use this in. But yeah, like I want to do a vertical GPU with an air cooler and just mess around with the internals a bit, because I know I can do that. I can actually probably invert the motherboard and flip the whole system upside down as well, which I kind of want to try out as well for thermals. And there's basically just a whole lot of other stuff I want to do, but guys, don't rush me. I've got lots of other stuff to do at the moment. I will get around to doing it, but just not quite yet. Now, as much as this case did frustrate me, and it really, really did frustrate me, ask Claire. Yep. I was swearing at this thing half the day. it is actually pretty cool. Like it turned out so nice. And like at the start of the video, before I filmed building it, I said that, you know, this is the Apple, well, this would be Apple's SFF case if they made one. And the frustration adds to that too, because if Apple made it, disassembling it would have been just as frustrating, I can tell you that now. But other than that, yeah, it's a really cool, really expensive premium case. I'll put some pricing and some links to this in the description down below. I'm not sure of pricing as of filming this video. This thing is way too fresh for me to have any pricing, but I suspect it's gonna basically drop in where the V1 was and just replace it and be exactly the same price. But who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you all of those answers. Anyways, guys, if you want to jump to any part of the video, just use the little chapter thing. I've been doing that on every video just to save you guys some time. If you like the music you heard here, I make all the music. It's available over on our Patreon, and I use the song that we've got on Spotify in this video as well, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Anyways, guys, there's a PC part picker list for all the stuff in the computer. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your frustrated boy, Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek. And I'm glad that we finally got to the end of this one, because like I usually don't get that annoyed at building computers, but this thing, oh. Yeah, and I said before, like I really shouldn't complain about small form factor PCs, because usually I don't have trouble with them, but this thing was finicky, even down to little things like the motherboard didn't line up when I put the motherboard in. I had to readjust everything for the motherboard to go in, and I should have known. That was like the early sign that this was gonna be frustrating, but other than that, yeah, it is really cool. Look at it, it's sweet, right? It looks really, really cool. It's really well executed, super premium. And just for you guys, I will be doing some more builds with it, even though it's completely frustrating. It's frustratingly awesome. Thanks for watching.